Hey book community, hope everybody's having a great summer. I just wanted to get on here and talk about how I finished up June, what I'm reading now, and what I plan to hopefully read in July. So I've had a great half year so far of reading. The last 6 months have been wonderful. This past month was very good. Had a couple rereads and some newer books, and I just want to talk about some of those. So since the last time I updated what I was reading, I have completed the Lord of the Rings trilogy for the second time. I read the Fellowship of the Ring in May, and I read the Two Towers, and I read the Return of the King in June. And I don't know what to say about this trilogy, other than it's, in my opinion, and I know people have different opinions on it, but in my opinion, I think it's the best trilogy ever written. Someone told me, well, you can count it as just one book since it was intended to be one book. Okay, well then I think it's the best book ever written. Whether we're counting it as one book or whether we're counting it as 3 books, it's just the best. Tolkien did something special here, something that would last, and just following these characters that I personally love and many people have loved in this world of Middle Earth that is just so immersive. The story is immersive. Everything about it is wonderful. I actually read this with some friends. 2 of them had read it several times in the past. This was my second time. One of them had never read it before, and it was really fun reading along with him and getting updates from him. And of course, he had never seen the movie. He had never read the books. He didn't know anything about it, and he would ask questions, he would talk about it, and it was fun to watch him do that for the first time, having no idea what was going on. He didn't know what the ring was about. He didn't know what they were trying to do with it. It was just really fun to watch. So anyway, that was a wonderful read, and let's move on. So then I finished out the month with The Prophet of Adan by Philip Chase. The Way of Adan, I had said before, it was the first book in this trilogy, the Adan trilogy. I had said it was probably really pushing to be my book of the year. Well, I spoke too soon, because I would say that this is definitely going to be put on my list of books that I'm going to have to choose from, because it is just a wonderful story. In book 1, of course, you really start off a slower pace. You start off kind of building the story as you would, getting to know the characters and all of that, and then this was just no stop. It started off in blazes. It started off in fire. There are, as you can see from this, there are dragons, and dragons everywhere. From the very first page to the very last page, it's dragons. Very good read from Philip this month. If you haven't picked it up, I hope you'll pick up The Way of Adan. And then I hope you pick up this. And if you've already read The Way of Adan, get this as soon as possible, because Philip has done an amazing job with that. In the Bound of the Broken series of Darkness and Light by Ryan Cahill. As you can see, see if that'll clear up. I have about 100 pages left to go. Right at 100 pages. This has been Ryan Cahill. If he can do anything, he can write an epic story. I read of Blood and Fire, and now this is the second book, and of course there was also the novella The Fall. This is a wonderful series, just a traditional fantasy. Of course, just like I was saying with The Way of Adan, there's a slow build in book 1 a slow build in book 1, and then book 2 just takes off. Something about this is there are so many storylines going on. I say storylines, there's so many points of view going on that you would think it may be hard to keep up with, but he does a good job at just keeping you interested, keeping the story going where you never feel like you have too much there. So what about June? Well, for June, to start off with, I'm going to be doing Sinlin Ascends by Josiah Bancroft. I'm going to be doing this as a buddy read with Dan from over at Black and Blue Collar Reader. He asked me about if I wanted to join in with him, and I told him I would. This is a series that I've been wanting to read, the Books of Babel. Of course, I've heard a lot of good about it from Alan from Library of Alexandria. I don't know anything about it. I absolutely know nothing about this book. I've heard a lot of good about it. Some people love the first 3 books and then kind of drop off from the 4th book. But we're going to start it. We're going to see how it goes, and I'm excited about this particular book. Then, to continue on with The Bound and the Broken, I plan to get to The Exile by Ryan Cahill. This is another novella. This is following one particular character in the story of Darkness and Light. I don't want to give it away. I don't know if it's a spoiler, so I won't say which character it is, but a character that has become one of my favorite characters. So anyway, I look forward to moving on in The Bound and the Broken. And then here is the chunker. There's several chunkers, but here is a book that I can't wait to get to. I wanted to get to it a little earlier, but I was finishing up some things in June, and Mike from Mike's Book Reviews really talked about it a lot. I had a friend who has read through it recently, and he just went on and on about it, and I said, okay, it's time to finally read Lonesome Dove. Now, I watched the miniseries that came on TV years ago. TV series, movie, anyway. I watched that. I've watched it so many times. I know the story front and back, at least from the movie standpoint. I believe there was 3 movies or 3 installments of that. They say it was a very faithful adaptation of the book. Well, I can't wait to read the book. Of course, the books are always better, right? So anyway, I can't wait to get into this. It is definitely a bucket list book of mine. I'm excited to get to it. I don't have quite as long of a TBR for July as I would normally have, because I don't know how long it's going to take me to read Lonesome Dove. But if everything goes well, I hope to finish out the series of The Warlord Chronicles by Bernard Cornwell. I loved Winter King. It was a great read. Then I moved into Enemy of God, and it blew me away. It's another book that is going to be a contender for a book of the year for me, and I'm excited about getting to Excalibur. I love Arthurian Legends. It takes so long for it to... There we go. Anyway, I love Arthurian Legends, and I'm excited about getting back to this and seeing what Durfell's going to tell us about the story. So that was my June, what I'm reading now, what I plan to read in July. And I hope, again, this all depends on how long it takes for me to read Lonesome Dove. And if that goes quicker than I'm thinking it may, I may add another book or 2 to my list, and I'll update you and let you know about that. But this is what I have planned right now. This is what's kind of set in stone for me. So seems to be a good reading month. I've had a good reading month. I look forward to another good reading month in July. So thank you for listening for a little bit, and go read books.